I've had a Rift for about a week. It's a borrowed Rift, but still, I've had a Rift for about a week, and I've spent almost every single day with that thing on my head for at least a handful of hours, sometimes like 6 to 8. It's been a really, really interesting week from a couple different perspectives. There's perspectives of, this as a new platform for gaming, or just, general experiences. Then there's, of course, the perspective of a content creator who has to make videos to talk about this product. And so in this video, I can talk about the experiences and stuff, which in general are really good, but I want to focus more on the technical side of it. Now, there's a couple of problems right now with the way that things are kind of just organically happening with developers and how they're allowing us to capture footage. And this isn't about them allowing us, from a professional standpoint, right? It's about them technically providing us with some kind of preview so that we can capture the footage. Now, it's early. It is super early. There isn't a ton of games that support the CV1. As a matter of fact, a lot of the games that supported the DK2 don't support the CV1 because they have to upgrade the SDK or basically patch their game to support the CV1, which is really, really strange how that works. I don't understand why that's a thing, but it's fine. But what's happening is there's so many different standards that are emerging with how we view, or how you would view footage from somebody like me. Right now, it's looking like nobody knows what the fuck to do. And everybody has their own version of how to display things. With the DK2, you were able to basically mirror what you saw on the computer and send, and one signal would go to the headset, the other signal would be there for you to record. That's the footage that you see that looks like someone's looking through, like a double peephole, right? And then usually on that, you have a fisheye look, right, a view. And then you have what's called chromatic aberration that appears on the outer edge of the actual viewport. Chromatic aberration is basically where the colors kind of split. It almost looks blurry, but actually the colors are separating, right? That is, I would say, probably the old way. Some games still do that for the preview, but as it stands right now, the CV1 does not operate the same as a DK2 in that respect. And this is just from me reading it. I don't have any personal experience at home with the DK2. But I could tell you for a fact with the CV1 that it does not work like you would expect. When you plug in a CV1 to the HDMI port on your video card, you would think, okay, now I go to my monitor display settings, and then I can go right-click on that and say, mirror this to this, right? No, it does not. The Oculus Home software will actually look at it as a device and treat it like a device where you would think it'd be like a monitor, and it actually functions a lot more like a keyboard or mouse, where it is just simply a device that is used situationally, not like a monitor that is used all the time. It always has a signal sent to it. When trying to capture footage from the CV1, I tried a bunch of different things. I tried doing inline. Inline capture is basically impossible. And the reason why is because anytime you go inline, you take a capture device and you put that in between your computer, your video card output and your headset. Because the Oculus Home software has to actually see the headset directly connected to your video card, that pretty much eliminates all of those inline capture techniques. I've tried AverMedia, I've tried Blackmagic, I've tried a splitter, and I tried an Elgato. I have tried different things, different ways to capture from HDMI inline. It's just not gonna happen because Oculus has to see the device, which is ridiculous. The other methods are obviously like Shadowplay and DxTory, but you have to have a viewport. And that's where we get into the weirdness where every game has its own standard. Some games will give you what looks like a 16:9. You'll get pretty much a 16:9 view, but it's gonna have to crop the top and bottom because in your headset, you do have a taller peripheral view than you do on your monitor, on a 16:9 monitor. So some of them will, in almost every single case, they will, when they try to crop it to make it look a bit more natural on the computer, they crop it too tight. And so you end up missing out on things on top and bottom. So this week I have like 7 or 9 videos that I'm going to be doing for VR. So you're going to see videos basically coming out through like Sunday as I work on them. Each one is going to look a little bit different. Some of them are going to look a little wonky. Some of you guys won't be able to watch because they look so strange, or because they're fisheye, or because whatever. And that's what we're here to talk about. It's that there is no standard yet. Some of them give you that 16:9 view, but maybe it's cropped on one side for some reason. So it's like the view is like off center for whatever. And when they do crop it, most of the time it's a little too tight. So you end up looking for like a peephole like this. Elite Dangerous does this. Elite Dangerous will give you a tiny, tiny little view of what you would naturally see. I see this, but if you as the viewer, if I were to record the footage like this, would only see this. So if I glance up even just slightly out of the center here, and I see something and I comment on that thing, you're gonna be like, what is he talking about? It's over here, right? I don't see anything. And that's gonna cause problems because you can't see it. The config hack that I put in, it's basically just a handful of lines of code you throw in to support another preview window for Elite Dangerous, shows you a much broader range on the in the viewport. It's a different viewport that pops up, so you have like 2 of them now. But it's also tall, so I could crop that maybe, but then you're gonna miss out on all this other information. So, man. So it's basically like one full unstretched version, signal that you would normally get to like one of your eyes, and that's what Elite Dangerous gives you. So that's just Elite Dangerous. Now, Marble Mountain, I believe the game is called, they give you a viewport. Unfortunately, it is cropped a little too tight. So as you're looking around, looking at things, people aren't gonna be able to see it. So what's the standard? What's the standard gonna be? Some games have the fisheye view with the chromatic aberration and everything, and in order to undo that, to defish it, you would have to take, and I already did this, you'd have to try to use lens correcting filters to unstretch it, or to basically unfisheye and then stretch it out to make it a little more natural. And on a 40-minute piece of footage, you're looking at like 20-something hours of rendering because of all the math I have to do in order to stretch it out, times 60 frames per second. And it just adds up. The other issue, so viewports, we need a standard. We just need a standard. And we need preferably some kind of config file for each one that allows us to go through and say, I want the viewport to show 110 degrees or 90 degrees or whatever. And I want it to be 1920 by 1080. That would be great if we could do that. VR is still fresh. We're probably gonna see these things coming. But right now, all the footage you guys are seeing coming out from different outlets, it's all different. Some of them look like you're sitting in front of the PC playing, and some of them look like this. Now, the other issue is shakiness. Shakiness is such a huge issue right now. When I'm inside the headset, imagine this. Like if I look at the camera right now, and I go like this, my viewport is going shit, right? But my focus is still on the camera. My eyes are not moving. It's like that chicken stabilizer camera like video, right? The head kind of stays in one place while the body moves around. That's what's happening whenever somebody says, I can't watch this because it's too shaky. It's because their eyes are not focused on what my eyes are focused on. And so the whole screen for them is shaking all over the place where my eyes are sitting perfectly still. There's no way for them to really get that experience unless they were to basically be in there with me. So what's the solution? I'm trying everything I can to try to make it perfect. Sometimes you're gonna get a video where it's like, I just can't watch it. And that's totally cool. It's gonna happen, you can't fix everything. Right now, I'm obviously using like warp stabilizer and other ways to try to get things to be somewhat stable. Some of them may look a little bit wonky because I have to use perspective shifts and everything. But the biggest thing is like the time sink that goes into this. I started Friday afternoon analyzing about 9 hours of footage, and it finished Saturday afternoon. It was almost like 24 hours straight of just straight analyzing footage, which what happens is Warp Stabilizer, which is a Premiere plugin or effect, will look at each frame in a video, and then it's gonna basically take down all those notes, and it's gonna say, all right, this is roughly how we're going to handle this footage to make it stable. And then you basically modify all the parameters to choose how you want to make it stable and how stable you want it to be. The more stable you try to make it, the more it crops, or the more warping and weird shit that it does. And that doesn't always work for everything. If there's no, in a cockpit-based game, if you do a lot of warping and everything, that cockpit's gonna be like, like jelly all over the place. In a game that doesn't have a cockpit, it's gonna work fine. So I have a game video coming out called Nautilus. And that one I used a heavy stabilizer. And it works because there's not really much of a HUD in that game. It's more of an exploration type title. And everything's pretty much centered anyways, so it kind of just works. But with Elite Dangerous, because you're in a cockpit, the cockpit's like doing all this weird stuff, and you can't do that because it makes the viewer nauseous. What the developers need to do is come up with a way to give us a viewport that we could see, for not just YouTubers, but for like streamers. Give us a viewport that they can see, that we could capture. And maybe just provide some kind of inline, like on-the-fly stabilization. If you think about the way that the headset sends signals, like motion signals, there's gonna be some variables there. So maybe instead of just polling every, 1/60th of a second where the device is facing, perhaps just do it once every second, and then just tween the animation in between it. So here's what that means. At 60 frames per second, at 60 polls per second, where basically the software says, where is this thing at? And I'm just assuming 60 times per second, right? I just make that number up. I know it's pretty smooth, obviously, because it looks smooth in your headset. If I go like this within a second, right? Boom, 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 like this, I'm shaking all over the place. It's gonna capture all of that because it's taking it polls, like boom, 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 da, 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 all that data, and that's what you're seeing. And so that's what the viewport sees. And so the viewer at home is like, oh man, like you're moving all over the place. It's like, what's wrong with you? If you take a poll, if you basically sample here and then here, you're only gonna see this. You're not gonna see this to get to that point. So that's the kind of stuff that we need to figure out, and that developers, and probably Oculus, if they care, I feel like maybe the Vive will probably come up with it first. Or Steam will, because Steam is more familiar with the platform, the gaming platform, for longer periods of time, right? They know the community, I feel like, a little bit better. But somebody needs to come up with something to smooth out that experience so that way you, the viewer, can watch it, because it doesn't make any sense for somebody to try to make video content when they have to record it, stabilize it, and then output it, and then hopefully it's not cropping and getting super weird and it works. And again, this is like 10 hours later, then you can render the video and then you can send it out. If you do one video a week, sure, that probably works great for you. But if you're like me and you do video every day, or if you stream, that's completely out of the question, you're not gonna do it, there has to be a medium there, a happy medium there. Something has to be met. Not being able to capture and display footage that everybody can see and enjoy is actually hurting the product more than us not capturing. It's just, you might as well just not let us capture footage at all. There's all these different standards. There's all these different ways that they're trying to allow us to capture the footage with these little viewports and everything. They're all different sizes, they're all different shapes and everything. But ultimately, we need a way to be able to, and this is we as streamers, as YouTubers, right, content creators in general, to be able to display and showcase this product so that you, the viewer, will look at it and say, that looks like an amazing experience. I really want to get my hands on a VR headset. I'm gonna not go to the Starbucks every morning and save money and get it. Like people will find a way to get a headset if they're provided with footage that doesn't look like it's gonna give you a massive headache. Because people see that footage and they just think, I'm gonna put it on, I'm gonna hate it because it's so shaky. And it's really not. To me, the viewer, right? To me, the user, it's not shaky at all. So that's it. Please, devs, whether it be game developers or whether it be actually game developers and also the headset providers, everybody needs to work together to come up with a solution for this. It's important. The experience is important, but the promotional aspect of it and the advertising is also equally as important. It's just going to end up selling you more. After this first batch, I'm guessing they're probably going to sit down and try to figure out a way to sell more, because you're going to get these early, these people are going to buy in early, and you're going to want to keep selling more products. So you're going to have to figure out something. So somebody will come up with something, but it needs to happen. And this explains, basically, if you watch a lot of VR content, what's happening, like why things are all like crazy. So this brings me to my week here that I have, like 7 to 9 videos that's coming out to you guys over this next week. And it's going to be, each one's gonna be a little bit different. Each one, again, because the viewports are all like crazy. So I have to fill the negative space with like the game logo or something. But you're gonna see me, and you're also gonna see the game. And then I'm gonna try my hardest to make that experience as smooth as possible for you guys. Sometimes you're gonna miss stuff. There's actually a game where something was coming at me from the ceiling, and I'm looking up at it like this in my headset because I couldn't like lean my head all the way back. I don't know why I had like a fat roll back there or something like that. It's stopping me. But I could see it, but in the viewport, you can't see it. So there's stuff like that that's gonna happen. It's gonna be wonky, but I'm doing my best this week to be able to provide you guys with a viewing experience that does not suck. Some games, I can't save it. Some games, it's like, that's just the stuff, the way they gave it to me. It would take me 9 days of defishing and correcting chromatic aberration and all that stuff in order to make it work. It's best if I just give it to you, and hopefully you guys can figure it out. But yeah, we're doing my best to figure out, and I have a couple ways, and once I perfect it, I'll probably make another video to kind of demonstrate the best way in order to get, in order to record footage for all of you guys who make VR content, which is not a lot now, but the number is going to start growing soon. VR is pretty amazing. The price point sucks, but VR is pretty amazing. So if you have a friend that has one and he'll let you borrow it, borrow the shit out of that for as long as you can. So that's it, guys. This week, again, lots of VR content. Thank you so much for supporting me here and on Twitch and on Patreon. I love you guys, and we will see more stuff coming soon. Have a good week.